Hi there, this is Solitude Ronin from Solitude Ronin Films, and welcome to part 1 of my Satyajit Ray series. We might as well start from the beginning with Pather Panchali, or Song of the Little Road. This is his debut feature from 1955, and this is the Criterion Region A Blu-ray of the Apu trilogy, but more about the other two films later. If you're in doubt about buying a multi-region player, then Pather Panchali should change your mind and you'll immediately buy one. I saw this film quite a long time ago, and it had an impact, and rewatching it again, it's got even more of an impact. It's based on the famous Bengali book of the same name, by Mr. Banerjee. Apologies, but I'm not going to attempt to pronounce his first name. Apologies to anybody watching from India. The music is from Ravi Shankar, who appears in quite a lot of Ray films. Like I say, this is Satyajit Ray's debut feature, and as debuts go, it has to be one of the best for somebody that theoretically didn't know what he was doing. There's ravishing black and white cinematography, again by a first time cinematographer. It tells a simple story of a family in the countryside who for various reasons are hit by poverty and how they fight through it. But it's a little bit more than that. Growing up in the west of Scotland, obviously I didn't have much experience of the Indian countryside, so that I suppose there is a kind of exoticness about it when you see it for the first time, because it's an area of the world that you're not really familiar with. I suppose the same could be argued when I first saw Kurosawa films. It was something new, but something that still touched a nerve. Even though this is the first of the Apu trilogy, I feel this is more about the mother and daughter, because when the film opens, Apu hasn't actually been born yet. It's just the mother, father, daughter, and an elderly woman who they kind of call Auntie, who the mother kind of has this running feud with about whether she should stay with them or not. The daughter, Durga, tends to steal fruit from the neighbouring orchard to give to India or Auntie, which winds the mother up. We learn that the orchard actually used to belong to the family, but for one of their debts they had to give up the orchard. So they're kind of looked down upon by a fairly nasty neighbour. The scenes at the beginning of the film and continually through the film of the countryside and the forest are just absolutely beautiful. It kind of reminds you a little bit of Rashomon, There's beautiful shots of a young Durga with leaves. It's just a ravishingly beautiful film. The relationship with nature is almost kind of anti-Herzog, as far as there's not the kind of fear of nature and the kind of destructive power of nature, even though a storm does come at some point during the film. It's just an embracing of the beauty of nature, with bamboo and trees. It is a beautiful, beautiful film. Anyway, after the kind of introduction, which sets the scene, Apu is born, and then time passes. The kittens in earlier scenes become kind of bigger and turn into cats. Strangely enough, there's no 3 years later that comes up graphic on the screen like some films are prone to do. We can kind of recognise that time's passed, the cats are bigger, Durga's bigger, and obviously Apu's running about. So again, even although it's the start of the Apu trilogy, this one's not really that much about Apu. You see him kind of reacting to children being beaten at school, or the man who sells sweets but they can't afford them, so literally Apu and Durga are standing licking their lips, watching the sweet man go by. The father is a bit feckless and has dreams of being a writer or a spiritual man. He takes ages to kind of get paid from collecting rent from people. And then at some point in the film he goes away to try and find work, and the family are left to kind of fend for themselves. And I'm not going to spoil things, but certain things happen which are quite moving and heartbreaking. And then at the end of the film, the family decides to move from their ancestral home and go to the city. Now, granted, without the dreaded spoilers, I might not have sold this very well, but there's a couple of scenes. I mean, there's a scene that's probably famous for, involving a train, and kind of the train is a symbol of the modern world, and kind of progress, and it's shot in just such a beautiful way. We kind of just hear it with sound, and then he doesn't have any music in the scene, so it's just natural music, and then we slowly hear it appearing, and then Durga and Apu go chasing it. It's a scene full of joy, and it's very uplifting, but Ray, being one of the great humanists, recognises that life's not all about joy. So the following scene is beautiful and emotional in a different way. The acting is really good. The old woman takes a bit of getting used to. Her face has certainly a lot of character to it, shall I say. And she's a bit of a rascal. The mother is fantastic. She was actually a stage actress first, before Ray got her into playing this part in the films. And it's just such a beautiful film. I would be interested to hear if people have seen it and what they think of it. It's a film that stays with you. There's images and scenes that stay with you. For somebody that claims not to have really known what he was doing, Ray's sense of composition is quite beautiful. Again, I've mentioned it a few times, talking about him prior. His films have a kind of simplicity, but it's kind of deceptively simple. People might say it's kind of naive, or it's a pastoral view, but he was a very clever man, and his films are really intelligent and thought-provoking, because even though it's in the Indian countryside, somebody from the west of Scotland can identify with the characters, and you root for them pretty much from early on, and you ride the roller coaster of life with them. Yeah, as a debut, it's right up there with the ones that you want to mention. Citizen Kane amongst others. I mean, it's that good, and it's that beautiful. Again, there's images that are just stunning. Again, the use of water and light. It's almost Tarkovskian in some places, because I'm sure Tarkovsky must have seen the early films of Ray, especially for Ivan's childhood. And again, like I said, if you're sitting on the fence about buying a Region A player or a multi-region player, then try and get the Apu trilogy on Blu-ray. I didn't actually realise in 1993 the 3 negatives for these films were actually burned, so they had to restore it from other sources, and they've done a really good job. The print on this is exquisite. There's some later scenes that have got a bit of grain, but I think that's probably from where they had to source it from. But on the whole, the print is just absolutely perfect, and kind of is deserving of this beautiful film. So hopefully, if you haven't seen it, I've intrigued you enough to go and spend 300 quid on a multi-region Blu-ray player. Yeah, and thanks very much for watching, and hopefully, like I said, this is going to be an ongoing series of Ray's work. Again, sadly not all of his films are available, but I'm just going to go through them chronologically as far as the ones that I've actually got. So thanks very much for watching as always. Leave a like or subscribe if you want to see more videos of me talking nonsense, and hopefully we'll see you again for episode 2 of Saiyajit Ray. Thanks very much for watching. This is Solitude Ronin saying farewell.